My name is Damien Retzinger. I am a maintainer of Daffodil, which you'll find out a little bit more about in a second, at Greycore. Today I want to talk to you about building storefronts that connect to any platform. So unlike Eeyore, I will say the evil word. Replatforming sucks. It's really, really bad. If you've ever been on any platform and moved to any other platform, you end up getting some ridiculous quote from an agency or a technology provider, probably upwards of $100,000, and you feel really bad, your exec team hates you, all the bad stuff. But what if it didn't suck, right? So what if it was really, really easy to transition between platforms? What if you didn't have to think about it, or if you did have to think about it, you could think about it like in small scale. You talk about one particular service, you talk about one particular thing. So 7 years ago, I kind of set out on a mission around the Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration to completely eliminate this problem. I had a really, really bad experience migrating from Magento 1 to Magento 2, and I decided I don't ever want to do that again. So I decided to build a framework for building storefronts that can connect to any platform. So let's say today, you are on Magento, tomorrow you're on Shopify, 3 months later you decide, that's all bad, let's go to Magento again, and a couple years later down the line you go to say, let's do Salesforce, and then maybe a month after that you're like, yeah, not Salesforce, let's do Adobe Commerce Software as a Service. So I wanted to do that. So Daffodil is a client-side framework that allows you to build storefronts that connect to any platform. So you can see a little demo of this if you have your phone or whatever you'd like, of essentially what this does. So I have a little demo storefront here. You can go visit it, demo.daff.io. The cool thing is this little button in the bottom right-hand corner. You can tap on that. If you tap on that, you'll get a little modal that you can open up that will allow you to actually switch your storefront to any other platform. So right now, if you look at the little modal, it'll say it supports our in-memory driver, which is a really cool thing for me as a UI developer. I don't necessarily want to build a storefront that's connected to any particular platform. I just kind of want to iterate on UI and build something cool. Like if I'm building a storefront for a merchant, I want to build some cool user interface. I don't want to have to wait for my backend dev team to go build out, run a Magento store. I got to go figure out how to connect to it. Got to work with the network team to get it accessible. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to iterate on UI. But as I said, there's the in-memory driver. There's some dude on the internet who made a website called fakestoreapi.com. I wrote a driver for that. You can see that. That's what you actually see here. That's this product data. This is, if you've seen Luma storefront data before, this is the Luma storefront data. And then I have a little Shopify storefront that I built out that supports selling stickers. So here's a little storefront that sells stickers. But ultimately, Daffodil, as I said, is this client-side framework for building storefronts. But how does this make replatforming suck less? Well, ultimately what I have is a driver layer. It's an adapter layer that runs entirely in the browser. There's no third-party services. You don't need some kind of supplemental Elasticsearch service. You just use everything in the browser. And I have nicely defined APIs, much like you would expect, if you're familiar with browser development, like local storage. Local storage in your browser has predefined APIs. They work across all the browsers. I wanted to build an Ecommerce API native to the browser so that if I had to switch my storefront to any other platform, I could do so easily. So I built a standardized interface. I started with simple things. I started with, building some product pages and some category pages. And then slowly over the years, I expanded it to, now I got to handle carts, and then eventually checkout, order history, customer authentication, store credit, and you get the idea, right? But how did I do it? So first of all, I looked at, back in the day, I started from Angular because this happens to be the front-end framework that I was familiar with. It's not any particular great reason saying I loved React or I love Vue. I picked Angular because it's what I knew. I liked TypeScript at the time. I thought it was a cool idea. Making tighter typed interfaces seemed good. And then, as I said, this concept of adapters or drivers. Every day, you plug in your phone to a USB-C adapter. If you have an iPhone, unfortunately, you had to deal with some gimmicky Lightning adapter. But maybe I think that's actually gone these days. But you deal with some kind of adapter interface, some very simple driver interface in your day-to-day life. And I want to apply the same concept to building storefronts. And I did. So I want to give kind of a general overview of like what I mean when I say driver, because a lot of times people will just assume I mean like a little plug on your phone, or if you think about like the printer jack that's on the back of your PC. A driver in the context of Daffodil is something very simple. It's just an interface. It has some very basic descriptors. So it has the arguments of the function name. So you see a function here, you see get, and it has a product ID, and then it returns some kind of observable response. You can go find those models in our documentation to see exactly what they mean. But that's generally the idea. A driver is simply a collection of methods, arguments, and return types that, so long as that you meet those interfaces, your storefront can swap interchangeably between any platform. So if you want to do Shopify today, you can. If you want to do Magento tomorrow, you can. So under the hood, if you're a developer and you're writing components for Angular, you might want to know, how do I do this? Well, if you're very familiar with Angular, it's pretty straightforward. There's a really lovely dependency injection system in Angular, very similar to how Magento's dependency injector works. You just put the type name in the constructor of your class and you get the object, right? Very straightforward. And under the hood, you can do whatever you want with it. You can inject it and then call the methods and do whatever ridiculous things you want to do in your store. So, all right, cool. How do I provide, let's say I built out the storefront, how do I provide a driver to my store? So I built out this whole application and I want it to be interchangeable. How do I provide a driver? Well, we have predefined providers in the code base for doing this. So if you want to provide the in-memory API for one particular feature, you can. I have a little demo of that here. If I want to, so if you go, as I said, to the demo and you can see these things, there is also in the code base documentation for how you can install this yourself. It's actually one line of code. If you go to daff.io, you can actually see the exact line of code. It's a simple npm command, and you'll actually get exactly this demo. So you can do all of this yourself just to prove that it works. You get this. If you want to switch drivers to Magento, you do that. You change like 2 or 3 lines of code. And you get this. If you want to change it to Shopify, change 2 or 3 lines of code, and you get that, right? So you get the sticker storefront. Same idea will apply to any storefront you build. This is just a simple demo UI. I'm not doing anything fancy here. I don't care about building a beautiful storefront right now. Maybe eventually I do, but for now, this demo is just something very simple to get the idea across. If you want to do this yourself, as I said, it's actually just, I say it's one line. It's really just this npx command, change the directory, run the actual schematic that we have for installing the very simple demo. You'll get asked some questions about like, hey, do you want to use Shopify or Magento, or do you want to use all of them at once like I show in the demo? And you can do that. But this is all very cool, right? Maybe you like the idea of the storefront, but I want to talk a little about why this matters, and not so much about the demo or any of the particular code. So for developers, this matters a lot in terms of like having the standardized API, because you care about having skill sets that are cross-compatible between platforms. You are a Magento developer today. You might be a Shopify developer tomorrow. Your skill set is the same. I don't care if you're doing liquid templates in Shopify or you're doing PHTML in Magento. Your skill set is the same. You are a commerce developer. So I want to encourage developers to be platform agnostic. You do commerce development, and that's in reality in your day job. If you are a developer and your project manager says, we have this new Shopify store that we got to do, and you're like, I don't do Shopify. Well, hopefully Magento stays around for a long time. You need to be able to do more things. On top of that, I have spent the past 7 years building with Angular, doing all sorts of cool things. And front ends, frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue, they're all the cool hotness, right? They're all the cool toys. So you get all the cool toys, right? You get do all the fun stuff. And I want to keep it that way. On top of that, Daffodil storefronts, they're written in TypeScript, which means their integration, or the CLI integration with common tools like Claude and Copilot and Cursor are all very tight. So if you're doing development work, there's actually a wonderful developer in the UK. His name is Luke Collymore. He owns a little agency called Develo. He spent some time with Daffodil, and in 3 hours managed to build a platform-agnostic storefront with a tool called Builder.io's Fusion. I've never seen anyone do anything like that with Magento. And it's not like he started from my demo and went from there. He started from nothing. No code, fresh Angular app, ng new Angular 20 app. So I was really excited about that. It's great for writing tests. So AI tools with Daffodil are great. Test writing in Angular is like breathing. It's really obvious. And then finally, one of the major pain points that has happened in PWA-like applications has always been server-side rendering, right? You do pre-render.io, or if you're very lucky, you have React Router and React Server if you're doing really modern React. That hasn't always existed. PWA Studio didn't do a great job with this. But Angular has server-side rendering built in. So you get all this for free. For merchants, this matters a lot. So if you can build a storefront that is platform agnostic, and it's really easy to do so, and I mean it's truly easy to swap, you, as a merchant who maybe say you're working in a very regulated industry, you might get ejected from that platform. There are tons of stories of this on Shopify. Merchants who are doing some very tightly regulated thing, there's some small misstep that occurs, and then boom, you're off the platform. If you are on, this can happen on any e-commerce platform. So what I wanted to enable is for those merchants, I want them to build a storefront or user interface that matters for them. And then if they get booted from that platform, well, we can just switch the platform, right? Who cares? And the replatforming cost, as a result, goes way down. Make it really easy to change platforms. And then one of the inevitable questions that I get is, how much does all this cost? And the answer is nothing. I've been building this for 7 years for free for you. I have done this to make it easier for you guys to do your jobs. Everything is open source. Everything is MIT licensed. Do what you want. Build your dreams. Is there more than what I've shown you in this talk? Right? So in this talk, I showed you a little demo of some products on a page. It's not that fancy. There is 43,000 hours of development effort more available to you today for free. There are 5,000 some odd commits that I've written painstakingly over the years with tons of tests. I can talk to you about any particular package that I've tried to solve problems in. For design components, UI components, I can talk to you about perceptually uniform color spaces that we have in our design library. So if you're building accessibility applications, or accessible applications, you can do that, and it's very easy to do so. I can talk about how in our SAS component, like in the SAS files in our components, we have predefined checks that say if the text contrast between this color that you gave us and this other color that you gave us don't pass, if they don't pass the WCAG requirement, like the AAA requirement, you get an error. It actually compiles and fails. So we have painstakingly built immense amounts of code to try to make it possible for anyone to build high-fidelity applications that are cross-compatible across platforms. And that's I'm talking about like 2 minor features. There's so much more. Routing features, automatic, making sure if you're coming back from PayPal and there's no token in the response back from PayPal that you get it. You showed a nice looking error. We have handled all of that for you. And that's it. That's my entire presentation. I would strongly encourage you to star Daffodil on GitHub. It's a open source project. Stars matter a lot for us. It's how we kind of get notoriety and get developers interested in the platform. You can follow a little QR code to star the platform. Otherwise, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
So I'm sorry, I may have missed the beginning of the meeting. So basically, it's an API, and it's the same calls
Yeah.
to the front end in either platforms, right?
Correct.
But how about sometimes the structure between the products or different aspects are different? Like for example, in Adobe Commerce or Magento, the catalog specifically can be done by different stores, views. So is the calls, the endpoints different?
So the underlying function, the driver call, so when I talk about APIs, this is all occurring in the browser. So there's no the secondary services where you're calling something to call something. Everything occurs in the browser. you can provide your own custom driver. If you want to do anything beyond what we've done, you can always write your own custom thing. For Magento specifically, we provide features which allow you to further transform the response that you get back, because it's all GraphQL. We allow you the ability to transform and provide fragments into the GraphQL API. So if you need to retrieve more fields, or if you need to transform things on the way back out, you can do so. And importantly, it's all type safe. So if you would maybe mistakenly not meet the type, we'll prevent you, or the compilation will fail. But we do give you the ability to transform data, the request that's going out, as well as the response coming back. And then you must have to meet the interface.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.